Hi everyone. Today I thought it would be interesting to look at some of the different lightsabers that were used by Obi-Wan Kenobi throughout the saga, and just to kind of see how the same hilt, canonically speaking, kind of evolved between different appearances. Um, I won't be talking about my actual replicas because I've covered that in some detail in previous videos, but more speaking about the prop itself. So we've got four over here. There are a few others that I don't have. I don't have the one from the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones because that's kind of a different design altogether, and it's meant to be a different prop, obviously. And there's a couple in between of this particular thin neck design that I also don't have as of yet. But without further ado, let's start with this one. This would be the original one from Episode 4, A New Hope, that was used by Alec Guinness, obviously. This particular one is a Roman props replica called the MK1. Now, the history of this prop is that the prop team, much like the Graflex and the MPP, they kind of built this from real-world parts. There's a balance pipe. I think it's from a Rolls-Royce. The wind vane and the grenade section is actually World War II grenade. The clamp is from a Graflex, as can be seen on the stamping. The booster from a rifle, and this is actually a faucet from a British sink knob. So all kind of real-world parts kind of assembled together to resemble a sort of a weapon. The bubble strip is like the Graflex, harvested from an exact calculator, a pair of transistors, and so on. So this was the first effort for, this was the belt hanger, the main hero for Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars A New Hope. Obviously the one I have is very heavily weathered. I wanted it to look like how it looked in the Chronicles books, years after it was seen on screen. So then we move on to Revenge of the Sith. Obviously years and years later, George Lucas, with the prequels, wanted not to use real-world parts, but for the prop team to machine parts from scratch that look somewhat like the previous versions, but much more kind of clean, streamlined, elegant looking, without all the weathering and damage. So this is something like what they came up with at the time. You can see there's quite a lot of differences here. Not only is it much cleaner and shinier with a different paint job, it is slimmer overall, much lighter in weight. But, the design of the clamp card has changed into sort of a circuit board. The greeblies have changed on the side too. There's that gear and that brass greebly. But you can see that it's kind of inspired by this look. This particular one is a Roman props. And this is an idealized version that was taken from the MR replica that was done at the time in the 90s. Another version of this that also appeared in some scenes of Revenge of the Sith had a brown neck. It does look very, very similar if you compare them, but it's kind of less chrome, more aluminium, with a darker wind vane and neck. But overall, otherwise, very, very similar. So in some scenes, we could see, especially when he's got it hanging on his belt, Ewan McGregor, we can see the shinier copper and brass neck. But in some scenes, particularly when he uses a force to pull it towards him, this prop was the one that was seen on screen with the brown neck. There's at least another two from Revenge of the Sith that I don't have here. They do look similar, but there are subtle differences in the paint job and so on. So these would have been the Revenge of the Sith ones. Finally, here we have the one that appeared on the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi. For this, the prop team again chose to machine something from scratch, but this time they wanted something, because of the timeline, with the Kenobi series taking place a few years after Revenge of the Sith and a few years before A New Hope. They wanted it to look like this one, but a little bit more weathered, almost like it's a transition in between the two. So once again, they machined from scratch, but this time the emitter is actually very, very similar to the balance pipe on the MK1. They also heavily weathered the grenade section, and overall the rest of the hilt can be seen with multiple scratches and bits of rust and grime in between, just less shiny and chrome looking than its predecessors, so as to look like it's kind of transitioning on the way, getting a bit more weathered, so it ultimately ends up looking like the one that we see in A New Hope. So once again, this is a Roman Props Inception Elite, inspired by the main belt hanger in Revenge of the Sith. This one is an Anakin Starkiller General McGregor. It is again a secondary hero from Revenge of the Sith. It's used in the Force Pull gag. This is a Roman Props Buried Hope, which is based on the Disney Plus Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And finally, this is a Roman Props MK1 replica, which based on the Star Wars A New Hope belt hanger for Alec Guinness. There are a couple of other ones that I'd like to add to my collection one day, one of them being the motorized stunt, which would have been inspired by this one here, also used in A New Hope, but it would have a long rod, kind of attaches in here, and a spinning rod, and some switches down here, and it would house a motor, and the actor would then toggle the switch, and the rod would spin, the light would bounce off it, and it would look like a lit lightsaber, an ignited lightsaber basically. And that was the stunt that was used in the action scenes in A New Hope, in the duel against Darth Vader and in the cantina and so on. And that one, the motorized stunt, its significance is that it was later reused for Luke in Return of the Jedi, and ultimately became his V2. And that's why I'd really love to add that one to my collection. But that being said, that's all I have today for Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsabers. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out as always. And I will see you in the next one.